Yeah, this would have been a different game if I could have played. You never would have been an 85-62 loser. We'll be right back.
English. And when Alex English talks, Boston's gotta listen. Nuggets, Celtics, tomorrow.
Well, Georgetown wins by 30, and then they come back and win by 23 to go to the final. And our Chevrolet most valuable players of this semifinal game are Charles Smith from Georgetown, Bobby Martin of Pittsburgh, and a check in the amount of $1,000 will be donated to each school's general scholarship fund to further assist qualified students in their chosen field of endeavor. We'll have a final word from Madison Square Garden, where it's come down to Georgetown and Syracuse in a moment. We saw the Charles Smith show here today.
Well, and this was one of the great shots that I've seen this year so far, because Charles got caught up in the air, nothing else to do with it but dish it off. Great game.
That wraps it up. Tomorrow it'll be Syracuse, Georgetown. For Billy Packer, I'm Brent Musburger saying so long from New York, 85-62. Tune in tomorrow for NBA action here on CBS. We will start it off with the Denver Nuggets and the Boston Celtics. Then after that, we'll move along to the Big East Championship, followed by Winterfest, a preview of the World Figure Skating Championships. And at 5:30 Eastern, CBS Sports presents the NCAA Tournament Selection Show. Presentation of CBS Sports, home of the NCAA Championship. So long, everybody.
When you look for champions, you look to CBS Sports.
This is CBS.
Tournament in Madison Square Garden. The number 1 seed, the Georgetown Hoyas, and the number 3 seed, the Orangemen of Syracuse. And they will come together now for the 3rd time this season and play for the Big East Tournament Championship. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. I'm Brent Musburger. Let me turn the calendar back a few years. 1984. Championship game in the Big East, and the Hoyas of Georgetown won this game. And then look at what happened. They rolled all the way to Seattle and won a national championship. Billy Packer, that was indeed deja vu.
It was deja vu, and Brent, I was here for that Big East Championship, one of the great games ever played in any postseason tournament. Syracuse really should have won that basketball game. Pearl Washington put on one of the great individual shows, and Syracuse had the game in their grasp. Everybody remembers how annoyed Jimmy Boeheim was. I hope it's the same type of attraction today, because that was a classic.
Billy, so many stories within the story here, like this great showdown between Sherman Douglas, the leader for Syracuse, against the player of the year in the Big East, Charles Smith.
Charles Smith is an underrated player, even though he is the player of the year in the Big East. You can see how he has grown throughout his career. Recruited as a defender, but look at these stats. And the stats really belie what a great leader he is for this ball club and how important he is for their championship thrust.
Not bad for someone who was recruited as a defensive specialist.
You better believe it.
Coming up now, the championship game of the Big East Tournament.
CBS Sports coverage of today's Big East Tournament Championship game is sponsored by IBM, the people, products, and resources to help you find the right solution. Express Mail Overnight Service. And by Mazda Cars and Trucks, including the all-new
He's
Mazda.
ready. It's Syracuse and Georgetown, and Syracuse is 2-4 in Big East title games. Stephen Thompson, who shot 64% from the field at one forward. Billy Owens, who's had a great tournament so far, averaging better than 15. And Derek Coleman, he's the Syracuse leader in rebounds. Sherman Douglas will run it, leads the team in scoring and assists. And Matt Rowe, 28% from the field. Boeheim's 13th year. 76% of the time, he comes up a winner. On the other side, it'll be Jaron Jackson, shooting only 29% in the tournament. John Turner, second on the team in boards, and Alonzo Mourning, who leads the nation in block shots. Charles Smith, the Big East Player of the Year, and Dwayne Bryant, who is second on this Hoya team in assists. John Thompson's 17th year, he wins 75% of the times. He's also unbeaten in 5 previous Big East title games. Here we go. Opening tap on the floor, and the Hoyas battle for it. Smith, and it'll be a tied-up ball. It'll go over on the possession arrow, or will they re-jump it?
Well,
I think Burr wants to re-jump it. What's he going to do here?
Charles Smith down. You know, nobody actually got possession, so I think they've got to jump it back over again, Brent. You can't have the arrow pointing because it would be pointing to the team that got the first possession. But the other team, obviously. John taking a look at Charles Smith. He's hurting a little bit. He may have to come out already, Brent.
He came in with an injured ankle, going out to the end of the bench.
I think this is his arm or his wrist.
What a freak accident this was on the opening tap, Billy.
See, nobody ever gains possession of this. The ball falling around here, nobody on it. Smitty goes down. That's where he falls and hurts that arm.
Diving after the ball, he's down on the end of the bench. Mark Tillman checks in.
Yeah, now, what we have right here is that John's saying it should be that Syracuse gained the tap, but I don't think they did. I don't think anybody really had possession. They should be jumping over.
We knew we'd have a little controversy as this one unfolded, but not quite the opening tip.
And not the centers.
This one is controlled by Syracuse. Douglas was hit by Jackson, and it wound up in Thompson's hands.
The officials will have to let him play early on. These are two hard-nosed ball clubs.
Owens didn't expect the deflection. Douglas gives it up, then it's away from Coleman on the turnover. Here come the Hoyas. Tillman's first shot rejected out of bounds by Derek Coleman.
Now, this is an intimidation factor right away. You had Coleman with the block, but Owens was there to get a piece of it as well, and Charles is back.
Smith has returned to the Hoya lineup. Out momentarily. Turner short with the shot, controlled by Coleman. A great rebounder.
There was Stevie Thompson deflecting that jumper enough. Explosive leaper. Man-to-man defense by Georgetown.
On the inside, it's stripped away from Coleman. Here come the Hoyas again. They've forced 2 quick turnovers in this game. And Smith jacks it in for a 3.
When he runs the break so beautifully because he never extends in beyond that foul line when he's got the middle unless he has a layup. He'll pull up and take that wide-open jumper.
Already has the tournament record for 3s. Douglas comes back. There's a great rejection by Mooney. Here comes Smith quarterbacking the Hoyas again, and he'll take another one. He's 2 of 2. He is now 10 of 16. A Big East tournament record. He has hit 10 threes in the 2+ games. Georgetown has blocked 19 shots on the inside. That also a Big East tournament record. Thompson back to the perimeter is short. Rebound Jackson. Hoyas come down already with a 6-point lead.
Syracuse in the man-man. What's so interesting about Georgetown? They try to beat you initially with that quick pass. Then they go to their passive man-to-man offense.
Now, Mourning has not had many shots. That's only his 9th shot. And that's a rather high percentage one. Boeheim will use an early timeout. He's fallen back by
8. To win $10,000 if they match that final championship-winning score. Hurry and take your shot.
Olympic champion Bonnie Blair and Olympian Dan Johnson go after world titles, plus a world figure skating preview. CBS Sports presents Winterfest today.
Alonzo Mourning Morning's 12th block of this tournament, 19th block for Georgetown. Morning needs 2, and he breaks the individual record. Meanwhile, from the Georgetown sideline, trainer Lori Michael reports that it was an injured left shoulder that Smith suffered when he dove on the floor. He applied some balm, as she described it, on the shoulder. That's B-A-L-M.
And he's been bombing ever since.
Whatever it is, the whole team wants it. Turner forced another one and lead past the Bryant. What an explosion by the Hoyas. Are they the team to beat this year or what?
Brent, what a great pass by Charles Smith. He took just enough off it, put the arc on so Bryant could run underneath it. Now Georgetown goes to the zone like the man-to-man didn't give Syracuse enough problems.
It is tough for Rowe to find shooting room against the speed of this Georgetown defense. They may need Owens outside, and the youngster goes to the glass with a nice driving field goal. He can wind up being the key offensive player here today for Syracuse as they climb back in. Bryant has it knocked away, and he's fouled by Rowe.
If anything, Georgetown more aggressive in their half-court offense today. You know, Brent, watching Alonzo block shots, I've been thinking about this overnight, all right? I think what you've got to do against him is whenever a man drives, you've got to go block him out as if the shot already was taken. So don't allow him to get in position to make blocks. Put a man on him, which I don't think enough people are doing.
They are definitely trying to get Morning involved in that offense. Missing that time. Syracuse coming away with a rebound. Again, it was Coleman. Here comes Owens on the drive again. It is almost as though the freshman is ready to start exerting himself.
Well, he's increased already in the tournament his scoring average by about 3.5 points above the regular season average. He's much more aggressive and looking for the shot, which he was not doing earlier in the year.
Hitting, though, Billy, only 38% in the tournament coming into this game, 54% during the regular season. Now, at the free throw line, he has been 8 of 11 so far in the Big East as he steps up to the line. So he has increased his free throw shooting here in the tournament. But not that time.
Pumped up a little bit, hits it long off the back, but he was square on.
It's his second one, and it was at the free throw line where Syracuse pulled away down the stretch from Seton Hall. Bryant is cut off. Great speed on this Georgetown team. Morning side jacks one in.
That's what he did in the Olympic trials. Yesterday, John kind of called him over to cool him off when he took one from the side, but he can make that jumper.
He came out in practice today, working on that shot. Rowe getting Jackson up in the air, not drawing the foul. He has to give it up. Now they get it back, and it's Owens again. Coleman has it knocked away, and there's a foul called on Smith underneath as Thompson was going for the ball. How about our guy, Coach Majerus? Ball State goes to the tournament. They beat Kent State by 2, the Mid-American final. Congratulations to Rick Majerus. Perfect at that free throw line. They should send their coach up to Syracuse immediately.
Well, Rick told me last year in his first year at Ball State, he said, Billy, I've got a good club that I'm holding out. I'll be a factor next season, and he's done it.
I want you to watch Stephen Thompson's free throw shooting form from this angle. He used to bring the ball way over in front of his body. Notice how the coaching staff has him now. The aim point far outside, missing that time. But put back and blocked again by Morning, and Morning has control for the Hoyas. It's 12-4, Georgetown over Syracuse, just underway, Big East final. Jackson going deep, deflected by Coleman, and Douglas has got it. Lead to Rowe. Thompson's on the right, and Rowe wants to go for the layup and missed it. Turner comes away. Smith has Morning open.
Oh, what a catch! Over Coleman.
That's a 10-point Hoya lead now. 16 minutes to go here in the first half. Deep to Thompson. And he was intimidated. And I don't mean mentally that time. He knew physically Morning was coming over at him.
Here's Charles Smith with the perfect lob pass. You can't put it on the money any better than that. Totally legal. Alonzo made sure he didn't run into the rim. Watch that leap. Perfect timing right over a great defender in Derek Coleman.
Number 23 replaces Matt Rowe. Rowe sits, and David Johnson There you see his back. He's only a freshman, but a very talented one. This is an important substitution for Syracuse and Boeheim. This gives them a little more speed. They're going to need another shooter. They trail it by 10. It is so hard for Matty Rowe to get that shot off against this Georgetown defense.
Johnson, a lot like Porter from Pittsburgh yesterday, a good enough athlete to withstand the great athletic pressure that Georgetown puts on you.
Turner being fronted defensively by Owens, goes over to the weak side. Left-hand dribble by Smith, and that scoop shot of his, and he gets the roll again.
How does he find the room to get that arm up through there?
Leading candidate to be the Big East Tournament Player of the Year. He's dueling against last year's winner, Sherman Douglas. Deep, and it's knocked away beautifully by Jackson, who came over. They forced another turnover. Here comes Smith. Fakes the scoop, goes to Turner, and Turner comes back with a wraparound.
Brent, I have not seen Georgetown push the ball up the floor like this yet this year. It seems like John been waiting for this game to turn them loose on both ends of the floor.
Missing from the perimeter, Johnson's first shot. The Hoyas coming down and looking splendid here in the early goings of this Big East final. Already they have forced 4 turnovers. 18-6, they build an early lead. They're going to make Syracuse dig uphill here this afternoon. Turner off a fake, gets to the glass. With a foul, he'll come up to the free throw line.
Charles Smith with a little bit of Houdini right here. Looks one way, goes the other, and then the perfect English on it. Gets blocked. Turner puts it back up. Gets it to go. A powerful young man.
Well, I guess if any members of the committee had any doubts about Georgetown being a #1 seed, if they've been watching here for the last few minutes, they should have answered that.
How about if they get a bye for the first round? You just let everybody have the regular seeds. We give Georgetown a bye. On to Seattle.
Fuck now, little plan, but they promised to use 3 guys.
Well, and I'm not making light of the other teams, but this is a special club, and we've been saying it ever since my first view of them early in December.
Sounds like December, yeah.
Yep. That was an odd-looking free throw, but it goes. Everything falling for Georgetown.
Looked like water draining out of a bathtub, didn't it? Douglas brings it up now at the 14:30 mark.
And here's that 2-1-2 zone of theirs. You're going to let Johnson have the shot where they didn't give Rowe the shot before they're going to let Johnson put some up. He's got to take it.
And they're letting Owens have the outside shot. They forced another turnover. That's 5 for him. Smith with a pass on the inside, a little behind, and out of bounds. It'll go over to the Orangemen.
You see Syracuse, Brent, time after time under Jim Boeheim the last 6, 7, 8 years. They love to play this tempo, but today they've got a team taking it right to them.
Boeheim sitting the freshman down for a few words of coaching over there on the sideline. Rowe will try it again. He's a 3 specialist if he can find shooting room. Coleman is rejected underneath. He's been unable to get it going, but he drew a foul.
Alonzo with the lower body, giving him a push. It was kind of unnecessary there because he had Turner helping him out, double teaming. Johnson coming back in. I think what happened there, Brent, is that you had Jimmy Boeheim wanting him to know, hey, look, if you're open against those wings, you've got to take the jumper. Don't be afraid to put it up.
Now checking in, Bobby Winston, number 4. And Dikembe Mutombo will replace Mourning. And Mutombo has had a spectacular tournament so far. He's 10 of 14 from the floor, 71%.
And he's increased his scoring from 3.7 up to 11 points a game in this tournament.
Great wingspan underneath. Those of you who are watching for the first time to see him reach and deflect that one. Douglas comes back with it. Off a fake, goes in, but did he travel first or did he draw the foul? They're calling a foul. I thought he traveled before there was contact.
A little extra step, but it was quite a fake. And we talked about this yesterday. Georgetown goes on the floor. Look at the strength of Sherman Douglas to pull that ball out of the hand. There was that little extra step, but he got by with it. Foul called inside.
Thompson back for the Orangemen.
And Sherm doing well from the foul line, too. Brent, 12 for 15 in the tournament. Has shot very poorly on the year.
Scoreless in this game so far. Georgetown's defense dominating here in the early stages of this final.
And if you're Syracuse, you've got to find a way to get some interior game going, getting Coleman some points. You can't let it get too far out of reach, because you know their defense is never going to let up. Syracuse effective with the press Sunday a week ago up at Syracuse, going back to it now.
And there was a tripping foul against Johnson in the backcourt.
Two big differences, however, Brent. One, Georgetown today is not playing a passive game at all, so it's difficult. When they beat the press, they'll go to score. And number two, Charles Smith is now playing, and he wasn't there last Sunday.
And that was a key personnel loss down the stretch in that overtime victory by Syracuse. He's the one man they cannot afford to be without. He breaks deep. They don't pick him up. Owens had cut off the sideline. They get it back to Bryant, and he'll dribble it up. So Smith, in this alignment, the shooting guard, and they go to him right away. All the way by Coleman underneath. Still another rebound. That's a great 5 in the early going for Derek. Douglas trying to get it going, and he hits a 2. He was on the line. It's only a 2. Back to within 10 now. Jackson on the move against Coleman, and Coleman fouled him. His second personal, the one man that Syracuse can ill afford to lose here.
And Brett, this is the point that I'm making about the press last week as opposed to this week. Last week, Georgetown was content to beat the press, only to get it over half court, then to go in a passive half-court offense. Today, they beat the press and they go to the hoop, and that really sets up the 2-on-1, 3-on-2 situations.
In that earlier game in Landover, Billy, Georgetown won that one 61-54, giving them 6 straight victories over Syracuse as Rowe returns. Then in the rematch, which we covered last Sunday, and Thompson will sit down, it was 82-76 in overtime before 32,683. That on-campus attendance record up in Syracuse. What a great scene that was. Jackson adds the free throw, and Tillman will check in, and Jackson will sit down for a break at the 13:27 mark.
And we mentioned that's setting another NCAA record for him. The 4 of the top 10 attendance on campus of all time are between these two clubs in the Dome.
Syracuse being held, Billy, to 2 of 10 from the field right now.
Well, I think if they can hold in here for the next couple of minutes, get some baskets, trade some baskets to settle this thing down, they can get back into this ball game.
This is a 3. It is Douglas starting to take charge.
The NCAA's all-time assist leader, Syracuse all-time scorer.
Great steal by Douglas. Back to Owens. Owens for the glass. Comes back. And he gets it to fall. Hey, Dave right with it.
Picking him up off the press. Is Sherman Douglas a warrior or not?
It's
What a great competitor.
They start to hound the ball in the backcourt. And Bryant off the dribble. Winston goes to save it. It'll be Douglas again. Rose on his left. He's got him. Good Rowe for the driving layup.
Gutty layup that time by Rowe. Compared to the first time he went to the hoop.
Like James. I seen him just rain jump shots on people. 4, 5, 6 shots in a row. People just started calling me money. Because when he shot, it was money in the bank. He come down and shoot a 15-footer, everybody on the side be hollering, layup. Slam dunks are tough. But when a 35-footer come raining out the sky, it'll wire you up.
When the new legends are made, they'll be wearing Reeboks.
Georgetown and Syracuse, Anheuser-Busch will make a $500 donation to the local Students Against Driving Drunk chapter at Georgetown University and Syracuse University. And congratulations to both teams from Anheuser-Busch on advancing to the Big East Finals. Billy, still another record has fallen. Sherman Douglas just broke Mark Jackson's record for the most career assists in the Big East tournament. He now has 66. Jackson, of course, a great star with St. John's, now plays in the Garden with the New York Knicks. He's been idled by a knee injury.
Talked to him last night. He says things are coming along well. A quality player and a quality kid.
It is Winston. Mourning is back. Tillman, Bryant, and Smith.
And Syracuse goes to their zone. Georgetown becoming more passive in the zone. Look for Charles Smith.
There's Mourning very deep coming up. And Coleman came over on him and picked up his 3rd foul. Key moment in this game at the 12-minute mark. No points and 3 fouls. Coleman must sit in the first half. A huge loss for Coach Boeheim.
It is. Manning's going to come in, so you have a all all-conference performer being replaced by a rookie.
Richard Manning, a 6'10 freshman center out of North Highlands, California. A young man with potential, but Coleman has already arrived. He's one of the better players in college basketball. So now they will certainly sit in that zone, and we'll see what Manning can do against the man at the free throw line, Alonzo Mourning. And there is Ralph Dalton and Patrick Ewing, two Georgetown graduates watching here. Ewing having a great year with the Knicks. They're directly behind the Georgetown bench. On that one, didn't he?
Well, what hurt Syracuse right here is you knew Coleman was going to get some points inside. Plus, he put that Georgetown interior defense in some trouble to open things up outside. Now the pressure outside can move out to guys like Douglas and Rowe.
Billy, John goes big against this lineup with Manning in. He's put Turner in and taken Smith out.
It's his first rebound.
Turner and Mourning in that front line with Winston. Tillman battling out front, and did Rose step out of bounds? Yes, he did.
What happens, see, the defense extends you so much farther than you normally anticipate, so you go beyond the NBA three-point line, and when you take one step back to catch the ball, you're out of bounds.
So Boeheim, he counters. He'll use Thompson on the floor instead of Rowe. A little more quickness right now. And let's see what they're able to do defensively against Mourning.
Well, they're going man-to-man, and Manning's on him. Now, Manning's got a good body. He can put some muscle on him.
Mourning's trying to get the pushing foul. Manning staying right with him.
He's faking out there now. He doesn't need that.
Now there's a switch, and Manning has Turner, and Bryant down the middle for the layup.
Bryant's a lot like Ricky Blaylock. You get the feeling he can run all day long. A superbly conditioned player.
Johnson open, and he buries the jump shot. It's 24-18. We're inside of 11 minutes, first half. Georgetown's biggest lead was 13 points. Syracuse, under Coach Boeheim, battled back into it.
Manning's smart. He's putting the body on Mourning. Mourning doesn't like it so far. He's complaining to the official. He ought to keep banging him. There he goes.
Manning got position for the rebound. Very good job.
Nice job. He ought to work him mentally a little bit, too.
He's not backing away from him, Billy.
This Syracuse has a great group of young players that are in their freshman class. Haven't gotten that much playing time this year, but should be there for the future.
Run down by Thompson. Here comes Owens. Johnson again. This time he'll go to the fake, and the blocking foul goes against Georgetown. Let's take a closer look at that battle you pointed out.
Well, here's what I'm talking about. Manning doing a good job using his upper leg, and you see how Mourning is complaining. When you get a guy talking like that, you're getting to him mentally. It's a good move, and I don't, you couldn't move Manning with a truck.
That looks like Parrish and Elijah one.
Now, one of the things
NBA action inside.
One of the things that has hurt the Big East in the past, sometimes the Big Ten, is the referees let them play a little harder here than they do in the NCAA tournament.
Offensive rebound for Manning, and now Owens will come back with the left hand. He still cannot find the high percentage shot, and Tillman breaks away. Charles Smith back, and Douglas flips it and comes out. No manpower advantage. The big fellas are back, and Sherman will go in on him. Sherman couldn't get it to fall, but he drew the foul.
Boy, you have to love this kid. He hustles down court. He forced Tillman to alter his shot to the point that he couldn't put up a good one, and he steals it from Charles Smith and takes off on the other end. And I go back to that story. If Syracuse had recruited Boo Harvey, they wouldn't have offered the young man a scholarship, and he only had one other place to go.
And let me offer an interesting story. John Thompson always takes a rap for not recruiting him. Let me tell you the inside to that story. Sherman Douglas was a teammate of Michael Graham. Graham was earmarked for Maryland, but Thompson came in and out-recruited Maryland and got Michael Graham. The high school coach at Spingarn did not forgive John. They got into it. So Sherman Douglas was never high on John Thompson's list because of the relationship between Thompson and the high school coach. Sherman Douglas relating that story before the game began today. Does Sherman hold any animosity toward Thompson? Not at all. He said, I didn't even deserve to make the Olympic team. I was not in good physical condition. I'm not mad at John at all. I'm just glad I got a chance to play at Syracuse.
Well, I'll tell you, he's high on John's list now.
Better believe it.
After this 4 years.
It's 24-20, a 4-point game. Into the hands of Tillman. And he draws the foul. Douglas wraps him up.
Again, the difference against the press when you're actively trying to go to the hoop after you beat it. Georgetown really going to the basket when they beat that initial penetration.
Georgetown with only one field goal in the last 5 minutes here at Madison Square Garden. With Billy Packer, I'm Brent Musburger. We hope you're enjoying it. Georgetown built an early lead. It was 13 points. Now the Orangemen are back to within 4. This is for the championship of the Big East. Both teams will move on to the NCAA tournament, the Big Show. You'll find out where they will be seated later this afternoon on CBS.
Brent, we always talk about a #1 seed for Georgetown. And when you take a look at what Syracuse has done in the last 30 days against top-flight competition, including Georgetown and the Seton Halls, they're 10-2 since February 1. They also have to be given some consideration for a top-seeded club. Certainly no less than a 2, regardless of what happens today.
A couple of their fans came up and said, if we can't stay east, send us to Tucson. Thompson, but
they're giving Thompson the outside shot from certain range, 18 feet on in. He can make that one.
Douglas on a spinner into the middle, gives it back now to Manning off a fake. Manning showing some patience for a freshman. Here's another one. Johnson. Is there a lot of young talent around or what? For the Hoyas, with Mutombo and Smith, now using Winston, Tillman, the young man with the ball. Sharon Jackson off a good fake, goes to the right hand, misfiring. It'll be Stephen Thompson, outlet. Douglas breaks deep.
Left hand, driving layup. Left hand, he knew Bobby Winston was there. They've played against each other for years, not only in the Big East, but in D.C. He knows he's a shot blocker. Great play. What a comeback. Time for Charles Smith to get the ball in his hands to try to score something. Sherman on him.
Tillman bangs one in from the top of the circle, and it's 28-24 on the 2-point shot.
It's a great matchup back here. They're going head-to-head against each other. Charles Smith, Sherman Douglas. A combo in the middle on this zone.
So Manning will take the shot for the left wing with a beautiful touch.
Derek Coleman looking over from the sideline to those 3 fouls, getting great play for the freshman. Manning stepping out now on that solid screen. He's stuck with Charles Smith.
Smith is fouled by Manning. Didn't let him get the shot off. Came from the side. You know, you mentioned Coleman on the bench, Billy. They have outscored Georgetown 10-8 during that period.
But in fairness to Manning, he is a player that was projected maybe to move into the starting lineup, allowing Jim Boeheim to go big with Coleman and Owens and Manning in the front line, moving Stevie Thompson back. So that was something that was in their plan early on. It didn't work out, but the young man's doing it today. He tried on that step out on that solid screen play that Georgetown used. He tried to just hedge a little bit, and he got stuck with Charles Smith, which is not what he wants to do.
Morning watching from the Georgetown bench with Mutombo, one of the more improved players in the college game, out on the floor.
I think we may see before halftime's over the 2 of them in the game at the same time. A little different look.
Might as well as Manning is playing so far off the Syracuse bench.
Well, they considered him the best player out of that area since Bill Cartwright. The young man never heard of the Big East before, but he's doing it today.
Billy, 3 freshmen on the floor for Coach Boeheim. Here's one of them, Owens. Still can't find his shooting touch. And Manning reaching up over the top, and kind of a cheap foul. Mutombo had control of the ball.
Billy looking for that jumper. He probably can get inside that, particularly when he put the ball on the floor and penetrated. Want to get him a little closer to that hoop. You see, he's outside the 3. He's the kind of guy you want in a little bit tight of the basket in this type of game. Manning comes over, Mutombo's back. No question about the foul.
You thought so, huh?
Yep.
Bounce high. controlled by Hoyas, battling for that loose ball again. It was Jackson out deep to Tillman as Johnson came flying in his face. And Smith now will set the half court.
Here's that solid screen again.
Coming around, and Douglas will try to stay with him. Misses the three. Knocked out of bounds by the Hoyas. Syracuse ball from the side. And we've got a television timeout. 6:52 to go, and we'll be right back to the Garden situation.
29-26, great comeback. I'd like to show you what I was talking about earlier. Here's Manning on the inside. The pass is going to go to Johnson. Watch Manning step and block out Mutombo so Mutombo cannot block the shot. Now, this is not on the rebound. This is to prevent the shot blocker from getting there. Great play by Manning. Allows Johnson to get the good shot inside. Should be done more often against good shot blockers.
There are some of the key stats of the game so far. Georgetown's breakaway points unusual because in their previous meetings, the Hoyas have preferred that half-court game, but the defense has allowed them to break away by forcing turnovers. Syracuse with possession, trailing by the three. And Douglas goes for the tie. Rings out. Mutombo wraps it up.
Syracuse has to be careful if Douglas gets down in that corner to make sure they have somebody back against the break.
Winston, who has shot well in the tournament so far. Looking now for Bryant, who comes out to help. So Smith over here is the two guard. He's the man that Coach Thompson wants shooting the ball if they can find daylight for him.
Manning's fronting Mutombo, which means that Johnson's got to be careful for the long pass. Manning's getting good positioning there, fundamentally doing a lot of good things.
This will be Smith coming down the baseline and tossing it up. Tap back. Not there. Syracuse rebounds. Out to Douglas.
Got Johnson.
He goes to him. Johnson stays with it. Forced that shot. Hoyas come back on the attack. Quickly to Jackson. Looking for the break, and Mutombo was pushed by Manning. That's his third foul. So North Carolina with a chance to wrap up the ACC Tournament Championship. Florida and Alabama. Alabama, in a quiet way, has done a good job this year. They'll head on into the NCAA tournament, as will the Gators eventually. Turner has replaced Winston. Winston sitting down, and Mutombo moves up to the free throw line.
But that North Carolina game, that's interesting. They have not won a conference championship since 1982, and that's the year they won the national championship.
Well, they will try Eric Rogers now at junior center, 6'11", from Temple City, California. A young man who sees limited playing time, but because of the foul trouble suffered by first Coleman and now Manning, he will have to sit down.
I would expect we'll see before this half is over Herman Reed is well in that position. In the lane too soon was Georgetown. Turner. Yep, that wipes it off.
Throw, so it wipes everything out and gives the ball on out to Syracuse. They're down by 4.
Man-to-man pressure. Nobody taking the man with the ball in bounds. Or out of bounds. We'll see. John Turner got in there a little early.
Yeah, but did the Syracuse man get in first early? No, on that replay, I thought that Syracuse down at the bottom got in.
Maybe they're going to call it
on the right-hand side here.
Yeah, right. He sure did. And then Turner came in behind him.
Now, I think they're going to bring Mutombo back to the free throw line. I think. Let's see what happens here. There was a double violation.
Double foul line violation. Jimmy's going to go crazy. And the arrow was pointing in Georgetown's favor, so they get the ball.
Jackson gives it up to Bryant from the corner, and he buries a three-point shot. Big turnaround. Boeheim still arguing, but I thought Syracuse did step in the line and actually perhaps got a break by not having Mutombo on the free throw line, but it wound up going against them as Georgetown hits a three.
They'd have been better off if that was the call.
Exactly.
You know one thing, as good as Mutombo is going to become, he'll never make a three-point foul shot.
Owens trying to get on track. Spinner on Turner to give it up to Rogers. This is Rowe with the three. They need him.
Surprising that see Georgetown backing off Rowe. They did a great job yesterday on Sean Miller, not letting him have any of those, because they know he's limited really to the perimeter shot.
inside of 5 minutes, first half.
Georgetown working that clock. They take 10, 15 seconds off, and then they go into their offense. Double low post.
Smith loses the handle, and there's a whistle underneath. It was Jackson and Rogers dueling away, and it goes against Syracuse.
Yeah, foolish foul by Rogers down inside, because what they were trying to set up is a one-on-one clear out for Smith.
It's Rogers' first personal foul.
Coming up next after our Big East Championship, we'll have the Winterfest, the World Speed Skating Championships, and a preview of the World Figure Skating Championships. And then later, the NCAA Selection Show. Here are our scores: 33-29, Georgetown, 4:27 first half.
You know, Brennan, during Jackson, Georgetown got something that every Big East coach feared, and that was the second outside shooter that would be consistent to go along with Charles Smith, because that opened up the entire inside game for this team. Jackson has been quite a player throughout the course of this year.
Well, Billy, Derek Coleman without a single point, and Syracuse hanging tough, trailing by 5.
And my feeling was if Syracuse were to win this game, Derek Coleman would have to be the MVP. So far, obviously, he is not that. And they're still hanging in, as you point out, which may be a good sign for the Syracuse fans. Because you know he's going to do something when he gets back in the second half.
Lob deep. They wanted Owens, and Rogers got a little too high off the iron. And Hoyas come back. Misfiring. But Turner is there to rebound, and he muscles his way up.
I thought that could have been an offensive foul if Rogers had gone to the ground. Sometimes you have to act a little bit.
36-29.
Lead up to 7.
You think what John Thompson has added to this team. Last year, strictly a perimeter club. Now he's got all these great interior players.
Nothing. One of them showing you something there on the interior. Matumbo's blocked, and it sets up the drive for the layup. That scoop shot, what great touch he's got on that as Smith hits 2 more, 11 here in the first half. And Boeheim uses a timeout. 3:28, first half. We'll be right back.
One of the chosen, the NCAA Basketball Championship Selection Show, live today on CBS Sports.
Coming up at the halftime, we're going to Kansas City for the announcement of the women's tournament pairings. Of course, at 5:30 today, we'll have the men's announcement. Also at halftime, we'll have scores from around the country. Right now, let's continue on the road to the Final Four. Go back to the Garden, where, by the way, Brent, the Tar Heels lead by 4 with just seconds remaining.
All right, Jim, congratulations to Dean Smith of North Carolina. John Thompson was Dean's assistant coach at the 1976 Olympic team. Thompson coaching the team this year over in Korea, which unfortunately had to settle for the bronze medal. But John Thompson might come back and still win a big one this year. He could take the Hoyas all the way to another NCAA title. And that was Stevie Thompson on the drive.
Right into Montalvo. Now, what Jim Boeheim has done, he put Manning back into the game, figuring he cannot afford to let this thing get out of reach right here before halftime. Needed some more size. Goes to the 2-3 zone. Manning back in. Still Coleman on the bench with 3. Manning also with 3.
Tillman quarterbacking things as Smith stays over at the off-guard position. Now he goes inside. Matumbo finally goes to the jump hook and drops it in.
Oh, man. There's no way to block that one. He extended out there 15 feet from the basket.
And you know, defensively, Billy, the big difference is when you see Mourning there in the middle, well, Mourning jumps around. Matumbo, he just stands there and raises his arms. That's the difference between the two. Smith goes down hard. Owens, the open man, short on his shot. He cannot find his shot here today.
This is what you call the impossible block. You talk about Kareem's great sky hook. That is what? Celestial hook. I don't know what you want to call that one. You can't get anywhere near that one.
For hoop junkies, the best thing to come out of Africa since Hakeem Olajuwon. Douglas on the drive, hit it, and put him on the line.
And there again, Matumbo using
They're going to go against Syracuse.
Yep.
That is 2 fouls on Douglas. Boeheim is going to be upset.
Well, Matumbo again showing how smart a player he is. Not only gifted in regard to size, but watch him. Instead of chopping down, he just holds his ground, holds his hands up and draws the charge. That's what makes him so effective as a shot blocker. He keeps you off balance. You never know if he's going to chop you, try to go for the block, you just stand there.
You know, it looked like a good call, too.
Excellent call. He doesn't smile much in the game, but he's got such an engaging personality when he's on the court before the game.
Practicing setting his screens out on top, too. Ronnie Thompson, John Thompson's son, has checked in. He's number 30. Smith back at the point in this alignment.
Now, I walked out of the gym the other day with the Pittsburgh players after yesterday's game. They said they love his walk. After yesterday's game, you would think they were impressed with more than his walk.
I think Mourning better practice that outside jump shot.
Well, what a twosome. They haven't used him as a twosome. Now, Manning is doing what he's been called on to do, but the official doesn't want to see all that leaning in there. Piece of ice.
Syracuse has cooled off here in the last 6 minutes. They've been limited to only 2 field goals. And again, it has been that tough, ferocious, unrelenting Georgetown defense.
Now here we have 39 seconds. Let's see how many seconds they take off before they attack the basket. Unusual philosophy for a team that's that quick, but they're so good at it.
That's the shot clock on the left there, fella.
Let's hold it, and then they have that ability, because of Charles Smith, to use those last 10 seconds so well. Oh, three. They do it every time. It's amazing.
It was Tillman.
Well, you might have to go back when they play that passive game, go back to a zone, and then as soon as they get it down around 12 seconds, attack them with some kind of pressure. They are so good at that.
Thompson inside. Mutombo fouled him.
Shows you how well Stevie Thompson can elevate off the floor, because he took it right to Mutombo. There's a case, though, where I think you've got to do what Manning did earlier. You've got to block him out so that he can't get to the shooter. Alonzo's been sitting a long time, Brent. He went out of there, what? He's been out of there 10, 12 minutes anyway.
He has spent a lot of time in this tournament watching Mutombo.
Syracuse made that great run, and the big change was that foul shooting violation, which instead of getting the ball, they ended up losing a three-point shot.
Thompson knocking down 2 more free throws. He hit 3 in a row yesterday.
2 off the intentional foul.
5 of 6 here this afternoon. It's a 10-point lead by Georgetown.
And we're going to see this system work again. Of course, this one because we're down at half court. Now, there's what I thought you've got to do. Jump out and really pressure. But this may be too soon, because Georgetown wasn't going anyway. There they go.
Ronnie Thompson losing the ball out of bounds. Syracuse with 25 seconds, trailing by 10.
The strategy there is, if you know a team's going to hold it, you've got to make some change their pattern a little bit. And that time Syracuse jumped right out on them. Now, it might have been a little early, but it still worked for him.
Jonathan Edwards with his first playing time here in the tournament. Mutombo will sit so he doesn't pick up a cheap foul here in the last 30 seconds. And Jonathan Edwards can chase Manning.
Straight man-to-man, and you can see Georgetown way out. And there ought to be an opportunity for a backdoor cut as much as they've got him spread out.
Inside of 10. Time to go.
Sherm's got to take him all by himself.
Johnson's 3 way over everything. Thompson underneath and foul. Foul.
He's going to get a chance to go that line. I'm going to be interested here, Brent. Yesterday, when nobody was on the line, Stevie Thompson shot very well on the foul line. And when you watch him in practice, he shoots well without people on the line. I'm wondering if he doesn't get distracted by the guys on the line. Let's see if he can hit these. This is just like practice. Nobody out there on the line.
Billy, he's 6 or 7 from the line.
Yep. His problem may be that his eyes see too much that's around him. That's 4 for 4, and that's the situation.
Georgetown with a halftime lead, 43-35, holding Jim Boeheim in Syracuse to 38% from the field.
Welcome back on the road to the Final Four. Georgetown winning over Syracuse as Derek Coleman has been shut out in the first half. Now, the ACC championship game just concluded, and 4-point plays for the Crimson Tide, 3-point baskets and a foul, and he's helping the Crimson Tide now to a 10-point lead with an automatic bid, of course, at stake in that contest. We'll resume play at the Garden between Syracuse and Georgetown. Brent and Billy coming up after this message and a word from your local stations.
Tournament championship game is sponsored by Budweiser. Beechwood aged for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you. Holiday Inn Hotels. Holiday Inn. Stay with someone you know. And by the heartbeat of America, today's Chevrolet.
Well, it's halftime at the Big East Championship, and the Georgetown defense has been one of the headlines here, holding Syracuse to 38% and only 2 field goals over the last 8 minutes of that first half. And on the break, that defense has allowed Georgetown to cruise for 16 fast break points. On the boards, before he got into foul trouble, Derek Coleman pounded away for Syracuse, 5 boards in only 8 minutes. And a great duel continuing in the backcourt between those 2 team leaders, Charles Smith and Sherman Douglas. Billy Packer, Syracuse did quite well, really, when you consider the foul problems.
They really did. I thought Manning did a great job coming in there for Coleman. Coleman, of course, coming back here in the second half. One of the things, of course, we all talk about is Georgetown's defense is their offense, and a good example of that took place in the first half. When you saw Mutombo so many times blocking shots and starting to break, but now we've got Mourning back in there to try to do likewise.
Syracuse with possession. We start in the final 20 minutes of regulation. Owens handling the ball, only 2 of 8. They're going to need some scoring from him. Coleman starts with 3 fouls, misses the game's first shot of the second half, and the Boyers come back down.
You know, Turner with that rebound, Brent, he's been another unsung hero in this game for Georgetown. A lot of solid, hard-nosed play inside.
Owens tripped up accidentally by Smith. The foul is against Smith. That's his second personal foul.
Followed by Charles Smith.
Charles Smith ankle healed well. For those of you who saw the game yesterday, it looked like Smitty had hurt that ankle rather severely, and it's been troubling him of late. Didn't play in last week's Syracuse game because of it, but he's back today and showing no ill effects of that bruise. Straight man-to-man.
Smith is out here on Douglas. Jackson with Rowe.
See, they just don't give Rowe any room at all to put up that jumper. They stay right on it even when the ball goes inside.
And they try to stay close to it. There's the man, and misses again. He's now 2 of 9. Owens outlet to Smith. And Jackson comes down the left baseline, turns it over. And Coleman, such a presence on the inside. A rebound, and now he catches that pass to force a turnover.
You don't want to see him get into foul trouble, and you don't want him rushing his game, but Syracuse has got to get him involved offensively here early in the second half. Let him touch it down low in the post.
Mourning.
There it is.
Fronting him. He gets it low, goes to the glass for the field goal, and that's his first 2 points of the afternoon.
Sherman's wired in out there. 2-3 zone, Coleman in the middle. Jimmy Boeheim wanting to protect him as long as possible.
Sends it back to Bryant. It'll be Jackson with the 3.
See, Brent, that's what Jackson's done for the club. They spread you on the wings. You've got Smith on one side, Jackson on the other. And whether it be Tillman or Bryant out on the front, you just have to extend that zone so far to stop that 3.
Owens again, the pull-up. Took his game on the inside, moved off the perimeter.
That's where he belongs.
Jackson driving through for the layup.
Rowe had to go to draw the charge. He didn't go for the block or the charge. Jackson going right over him. And David Johnson up off the bench on that move.
Rowe off the fake, still didn't have it. Ships inside, and Thompson, it is tough for his game against Georgetown because of their size. Jackson breaks out again. Traveled, got away with it. Missed, and a foul will be on Turner.
Brett, the other end of the court may be one of the big differences between Syracuse against Georgetown and Syracuse against everybody else in the country. You have a guy like Stevie Thompson that shoots over 70% against other clubs because when he gets inside, he goes over the defenders. Against Georgetown, he gets down low inside and just can't get the shot off.
See if they get it back on the inside to Coleman. He had a pretty easy time of it a moment ago. Coming straight up on one, he's going to be short.
Good rebound by Billy Owens.
Sends it back to Johnson. They'll come through Douglas. Short run down by Smith. Bounce pass over here to Bryant. Morning. The way Thompson comes out. Here's Douglas. Smith is there. Hits the layup.
Sherman knows how to do that too. Makes that quick 45-degree angle cut. Tough to defend.
It's 48-41, Georgetown over Syracuse. Big East championship game from Madison Square Garden in New York.
I'd have to go to Alonzo Mourning some right down the gut. He's wide open in that zone. They're not even looking for him.
Owens reaching over on Jackson. That's his first personal foul. In that first half, Billy, Mourning was 3 of 4. So he was effective when he got to handle the ball down low, with Winston returning for the Hoyas.
He doesn't even have to be low in this case. He's going to be able to touch that ball right around the foul line, and then he can dish or go to either side when they collapse on him. They can also use them as they are right now, set the screens, but here again you see some of that Georgetown half-court patient offense where they use up 15 to 18 seconds before they attack.
Loose on the turnover. Coleman into Douglas. He's got Thompson ahead of him. Lost control, and there was Thompson. Got it up and in.
Alonzo mad that time because Stevie put a forearm on him.
It's a 5-point Georgetown lead. And Thompson will use a timeout.
The madness. March Madness on CBS Sports.
Billy, a 5-point Georgetown lead.
Well, Brent, we're talking about the 2-3 zone. You can see the two players here, 3 across the back with Coleman buried down on the end. Georgetown setting up way on the wings. The play is to go right down the center to Alonzo Mourning, who's going to be wide open and able to distribute the ball. See, he's wide open in there with nobody guarding him.
They have possession. Let's see what Coach Thompson set up during the timeout. Alabama advances, and Florida still has not won the SEC tournament title.
See Alonzo there, and what he'll do, if they get the ball to him, it forces Coleman to have to play somebody up high.
And Coleman saddled with 3 personal fouls already. They ship it across to Smith for the 3. Missed everything, and it's taken away by Winston. And Mourning comes up with it on the inside. That was Winston who set that one up.
And there again, you can see Derek not able to go ahead for the block on Alonzo Mourning. So even though a team's trying to bury a guy in the zone, you can still attack him down there if you get the ball in his area.
One out high.
Trying to get Billy Owens and Winston down inside.
Coleman can't get Mourning in the air. Douglas glides the baseline. Mourning rejects it, but Billy Owens is right there. And Mourning, with that block, just broke Patrick Ewing's tournament record for blocks. He now has 14 in the Big East tournament. But that block wound up a Syracuse field goal, and so it is 5 again, 50-45, approaching the 14-minute mark here of regulation.
Zone causing some problems, but Charles Smith about due to put up a 3-pointer. It'll keep their eye on him. Winston
staying in deep. Bryant out high, goes Back to Winston. They wanted Morning. Coleman deflected it, but now Morning's open. Owens came in, and Morning more or less laughs back at him, didn't he? Knocked away from Coleman. It'll be Syracuse ball.
Great block on the inside, and with that block, it took Derek Coleman out of position. Alonzo goes over the head for the dunk. You know, he's starting to get a little bit too testy. He's got to just let the game flow a little bit. The last week or so, it seems like he's playing very annoyed.
Owens was just charging at him with a hard defensive play. It certainly wasn't a cheap shot there at all, was it? Here's Johnson on the pull-up, misfiring. Stephen Thompson, right spot, coming back. There was a whistle, and he traveled. No basket. That's the 9th Syracuse turnover. Boeheim didn't like the call.
Now, there was a case where Stevie Thompson knew that Alonzo Mourning was out of position. Thought he made a pretty good move, to be honest with you.
7-point Georgetown lead. They have possession. 13:05 left in regulation. They get it inside. That'll be the left-handed wrap in. And for Jackson, 9 on the afternoon. And Douglas trying to swat Smith away from him, and Owens stays back to help out. So Douglas will try to go coast to coast, and Morning is there. The SWAT team comes up with another one. Now it'll be Bryant on the drive. And the foul is called against Syracuse. First on Thompson.
Now, we talked about Alonzo playing with a little attitude, and now Sherman starts to get a little attitude, and he'll get you in trouble every time, because he took the ball the length of the court right at Alonzo Mourning. When you have him waiting on you, he'll block it.
Syracuse has just called a timeout. They are down to 1 remaining at the 12:45 mark.
Sponsored by Pizza Hut, making it great.
As a result of all those numbers, the Georgetown defense truly dominating this game, holding Syracuse to 38%. And so we have a 54-45 reading. That's the time left in regulation. What about Syracuse? What can they do now, Billy?
Man, I still think that they've just got to push the ball down inside some for Derek Coleman. Try to compress that defense a little bit more, so that Sherman doesn't try to do too much all by himself. Remember the first Georgetown game, he tried to attack that way.
Bryant hitting a layup. 56-45 up in the first half. The Hoyas led it by 13. Last Sunday up in Syracuse, the Hoyas had a 14-point lead in the first half.
I think it's a good move. Get that ball down inside to Derek. Somebody better come out to help him here.
Double dribble.
Nobody came back to help out.
So there's the man whose record he broke.
He broke it right at the start of the year in the regular season. Patrick Ewing's most blocks was 10 in the game. Broke that early on.
Winston. Owens has it taken away. Fresh set. Into Winston. He'll get the open man.
They get all the loose balls, and then they convert them. Well, Brett, when they marched to Seattle and won that national championship, they held all the opponents in the NCAA tournament under 39%. So they're doing the same thing here in the Big East, setting that stage.
Thompson, Morning going over defensively. With Morning and Mutombo underneath, Billy, they can send this great speed out on the perimeter.
Sure. Now, there was a smart play by Morning. He just stayed back on that.
Advantage. And blocking foul going to go against Georgetown. Near the conclusion of today's game, we'll select the Chevrolet Most Valuable Player of the game for each team, and in their honor, Chevrolet will donate a $1,000 scholarship to the General Scholarship Fund of both Georgetown and Syracuse. That, of course, coming up a little bit later. Mark Tillman checking in here in the second half for the Hoyas. John Thompson with that great depth over
just
there.
Shuffling cards, and there's Coleman trying to do something. Now, Stevie Thompson has to wait. Finally got the hip on Morning. But, you know, when you take Bryant out and put Tillman in, I mean, you just shuffle the cards. You're talking about the same kind of player. Smart, multi-purpose.
Morning's left hand, and off comes Rowe with the rebound.
John want Morning to hustle back on defense. one of the things about Matambo and Mourning. They both can cover the court in a hurry there.
Season has it knocked away by Winston. He was fouled, and Thompson will move back up to the free throw line. First foul on Winston, who has a few words over there with Coach Thompson. It was interesting. There was an article, I think it was the Washington Post, on the editorial page, having a little bit of internal political trouble down in that city, as many of you folks are aware. And this writer suggested, hey, we need a man of integrity, a leader, someone who can pull us together. Let's have John Thompson as mayor of Washington.
Yeah, he'd get an awful lot of votes. You know, he just spoke in Capitol Hill last week, so maybe he's shooting for higher honors.
You know, his weakness, the writer said, was public relations. I'll tell you something else. He'd have to take a huge cut and pay to wind up a mayor.
And Jim Boeheim suffering through one of those days. You know, it's interesting. We had Dave Bing on earlier talking about Jimmy Boeheim being an underrated player. He said, but you know, I've got to watch what I say here. I played ball with John Thompson all through the days on the playgrounds in D.C.
Now, Thompson hit his free throws in the first half. Now he misses. Maybe that'll give Syracuse a little spark. Maybe they've been waiting for that, Billy. That's familiar to them.
Well, he had everybody standing on the line there. That's my new theory with him. Now man-to-man to get out of the zone. Enough time has gone by, 10 minutes. Coleman's got 2 fouls left, so he's got to just hang in here.
Can't draw the foul on the turnover. They try to get it out. It's stolen by Winston. They do get to the loose balls, just as you mentioned a short time ago. Here's Tillman, and there's the foul, number 4 on Derek Coleman.
And there it goes to show you the aggressive play by Georgetown. Normally, Syracuse is going in the other direction. Coleman wouldn't have been faced with that type of defensive play, but just great hustle by Bobby Winston intercepts the ball. Georgetown right back on the attack. They're relentless. You know, you think of the great half Matambo had. Well, I won't say great half, the solid first half he had. He hadn't been back into the game yet. So John kind of plays mind games with those two big men. He let Mourning sit for 12 minutes or so, and now he's letting Matambo sit over there. And the rich get richer. How would you like to be a college coach and some guy walks up and says, I have a 7-footer for you? You know, and John said, oh, I don't even want. Let me see the picture. And here he is sitting with prized possession. Nice.
Got Owens deep that time. In behind the defense.
Sometimes when he throws those lobs, the defense stands still because they can't believe he's going to try it.
Wanted Mourning. Mourning thought he was going to shoot. Rose busts out. Behind his back. Great ball movement, and there's Douglas. And now Boeheim wants the full court press.
Sherman Douglas is holding Alonzo Mourning. The referees didn't call it.
CBS Sports coverage will continue after this message and a word from your local station.
Coverage of today's Big East Tournament Championship game is sponsored by GMAC, the official sponsor of America's Dreams. Wang Laboratories. Wang makes it work. And by New Michelob Dry from Anheuser-Busch.
Georgetown is playing in its 6th Big East Championship game here, and they are unbeaten in the first 5. Charles Smith, the team leader and the Big East Player of the Year, is scoreless this half, and you must at least raise the question as to whether or not the ankle is bothering him or the shoulder that he injured on the opening tap.
I'm going to give you another theory, Brent. I think he's such a smart ball player, and he realizes things are going well in the offensive flow that he's just relaxing out there until they need him.
Tillman on a bust out. The Washington Redskins don't run it deep any better than that.
Well, you try to put that pressure up court, and that's what we talked about, the difference between last Sunday and today. Georgetown is attacking against the press. They're not just satisfied with getting the ball up over half court.
Owens again in low. Frustration, but the foul will go against Johnson. Both of them actually hammered Mourning.
You know, the referees, Sherman Douglas was grabbing onto Alonzo Mourning before, and the referees didn't call it. It's a little bit frustrating to know you're so strong that they're never going to give you that kind of break.
Jackson loses it, and Mourning is right there to hand to Smith, and the foul goes against Syracuse.
I mentioned that Big East Championship in '84. When the great Georgetown club with Patrick Ewing. Here's Stevie Thompson coming back in. Ewing got in foul trouble in that ball game, and of course they had Michael Graham, and they did a good job in that game. But Pearl Washington put on such a show until that altercation between Graham and Hawkins turned everything around in the ball game. Georgetown winning it in overtime. This game has been Georgetown all the way, however.
Winston spinning to the paint. Jackson will drop it in to Mooney. Wouldn't stay down. Owens trying to control it. Georgetown hit it last. It'll be Syracuse ball.
That was an explosive move inside, though, with a little roll-in hook.
Billy Owens now is 5 of 13 from the field, though.
He's got another jumper if he'll take it.
So it'll be Johnson that's goaltending.
Ball on the way down. Good turn. Johnson elevating himself way up. No question about that one.
Against the trap. Winston will bring it down for the Hoyas. Gets to Tillman.
See, Brent, there's the difference.
Morning. And Coleman hammered him. He's out of the game.
Last week, Georgetown would be happy to get the ball only up to half court and pull it out. This week, different story. You talk about attacking the basket. That young man showing a lot of emotion. And Derek goes out with a subpar game.
Only one field goal. A layup. Frustrating afternoon for Derek Coleman here against Georgetown. He leaves with his team down 11 and 8:17 to go.
Brent, you know, he did not practice this week, not making any excuses for Derek Coleman. He didn't look like he had any ill effects from that back, but he did not practice this week. Had been suffering somewhat from the back, but today I think the real suffering was the fact of this guy right here on the foul line.
Morning is so active inside, Billy, that I think he forces big men into fouling him. He moves so gracefully for someone his size when he's down there in that paint area.
Well, he's got that power, size, and then he's got the quickness. That's a shot Billy Owens can hit, but he's not hitting it today.
Tapped in by Syracuse.
The Syracuse forward by David Johnson.
Nice double. Smith in trouble, but he gets it over to Winston. The scrambling defense, there will be some open men underneath for Georgetown, and they inevitably will find it. Winston.
Syracuse probably wondering, why didn't it work like this last week? But if they look at the film, they'll see why. It's rather obvious.
Morning is having his best half of the tournament. Thompson fouled.
That was a free one for Alonzo. Does not count as a block, but it goes down in your mind.
A little bit later today, you'll find out where these two teams and the other 62 will all be headed. Seems little doubt now that Georgetown will wind up a #1 seed, and they turned it over, traveling on the inbound pass. Syracuse playing a sloppy game here this afternoon.
Brad, as I said,
12 turnovers, Billy.
Start working on your head. So you get somebody giving you so much trouble inside.
Smith was fouled.
He said he's all right. He doesn't want to come out of the game anymore. Here they go. From defense becomes their offense. Great cutoff dribble by Tillman. Charles goes in there. Manning does a good job, but he picks up his fourth. Smitty goes down, but bounces right back up. You know, but I talked to the officials at halftime. They said the first time in 25 years they ever opened up a game where they had a man injured before the arrow ever got pointing either way. And because Smitty is the guy on the ground that would have had to jump, but he had to be replaced because he was injured, they had to bring a new man in for the jump. It's a weird way to start a game. 80% free throw shooter. Doesn't have a weakness in his game.
So the freshman with 4. Coleman already on the sideline with 5. Foul trouble mounting for Syracuse.
I think one of the big stats of the year, and you know we all get criticized for trying to be so-called experts, but the Big East preseason team picked by the coaches did not include Charles Smith on the first squad. Manning's playing a nice game today, doing a lot of good things.
Owens loses it off his foot, and Douglas has got it back. Johnson, Manning grabs it, and Smith strips him.
They got
Here's Tillman.
4-0.
Georgetown builds its biggest lead inside of 6:40 to go.
Live from Paris, you're looking at skaters in training for the World Figure Skating Championships. I'm Tim Ryan at the Palais Omnisport in Bercy, Paris. A preview of the World Figure Skating Championships upcoming. Also the World Sprint Speed Skating Championships here on Winterfest. And now back to Brendan Billy.
All right, thank you, Tim. And we have found Georgetown's next opponent. A worthy foe.
He said nobody's going to unseat the heavyweight champ, but I guess he must have watched a part of this game on TV, came in to see that opponent.
Georgetown leading 70-55. 6:35 to go. Mike Tyson and Patrick Ewing both watch to the sideline. Falls for Thompson.
Wasn't this the site, Brent, of Ali Frazier?
Ali Frazier won. One of the great nights in the history of sport. Jackson from the corner. Tyson wants to fight two men here in the garden some night, he was saying the other day. Morning with a left.
You know, Morning has not come out this half. Very interesting. You know, John substituted so frequently earlier on in the season between he and Mutombo. But he's not coming out now.
Manning. Time ball.
Like what I see in Manning today. I think he's going to be a factor in the NCAA tournament.
The stars are starting to come out to see this Georgetown team. Word is out. Here comes Smith.
Well, Brent, you know, and I didn't agree with him. I know John Thompson told you he didn't think this club was as good as his 84 team. I think this club is better than the 84 club. I really do. I think it's more versatile.
Owens has to go high. On the foul, can't get it to drop either. And he fouls Morning.
Hey, Charles just going by Sherman Douglas here, looking for the screen. Now, see, Sherman had to be aware of the screen with Alonzo coming in there, so he played the fight over the screen, and Charles, being such a smart player that he is, just put it in the other hand and used the left to go on in.
Would you draft him if you ran an NBA team?
You better believe it. You better believe it. I think that we all have accepted the fact that he wasn't highly recruited, and
you draft him.
Oh, yeah, no question about it. As a matter of fact, you know, in the Olympic trials, the first major weekend, most of the NBA people that were there, and we're talking about the Charles Smiths were there, they said other than Danny Manning, he'd be the guy they'd pick.
Would you draft him?
Derek Coleman? Well, I hope he stays in school another year, because I think he needs another year of seasoning.
I love P.J. Carlissimo and Paul Evans, two rival Big East coaches. Alonzo Morning would be the #1 player picked if he went out this year.
Well, I'd be doing the same thing. I'd be trying to find him an agent.
One who can handle both Morning and Mutombo, right?
That's right. Get Ramon Ramos and tell him, hey, you're going to be an accountant. Go get those guys under your wing. Oh, I like that Billy Owens is still putting up the shot. He's not hitting them, but he's putting them up.
Bad shooting game, and there goes the foul, and they want the intentional call.
Billy's frustrated.
There is CBS broadcaster, the loneliness of an analyst without a headset.
Exactly. Well, you're going to see Billy Owens is just so frustrated. Knocks Jaron to the floor. He apologizes right now. That's going to be the end of it, though. That's 5 fouls. Owens and Coleman both out of there. And with 5 minutes to go, so is Syracuse.
They won this tournament a year ago. Beat Villanova. for the championship, but not here today. 77-57 Georgetown.
Remember last year when we saw Mark Macon break down in the NCAA tournament after having a rough day? I hope that doesn't happen in this case with Billy. I mean, these kids have a lot of career ahead of them.
Sometimes we forget they're only freshmen.
That's right.
In college. They're on television so much, and we see them play and perform, and we get to think they're like NBA folks.
But Tillman just all over Douglas.
Manning's staying in the game. Through the foul, he'll come up to the free throw line.
This young fella has not had the high school competition that Alonzo faced throughout his career, so therefore he hasn't had that toughness to play against a quality opponent. But he is showing me a lot of things here today that make me believe that Jim Boeheim goes back when the tournament comes on, he's going to get a lot more playing time than he was at the end of the year. They can start using him as no less than the sixth man getting in there often, but he makes this club a lot tougher to defense.
All right, at this point on Sunday, Billy, give me the top 4 seeds.
Well,
I'll give you a moment to think about that. As coming to the glass, another foul goes against Syracuse. Tillman was driving in. It was on Rowe there. And Arkansas and Texas playing for the Southwest Conference Championship. Both teams figure to be in the 64-team field. And John Thompson, he'll be a number 1 for sure now.
I'm going across the land, okay?
Okay.
I'm going with in the East, Georgetown.
Georgetown, number 1.
Southeast, North Carolina with their win today.
North Carolina?
Yes, I'm going with North Carolina. I'm going to go with Oklahoma.
Oklahoma in the Midwest.
That's right. After Indiana lost yesterday to Iowa, and I realized they didn't have everybody playing. And then Arizona in the West.
Arizona in the West. There you have it.
Thank you.
We can go home now. We'll find out for sure about 5:38. Sid Dempsey, committee chairman, will make the announcement along with Tim Brandt later today. Sherman Douglas fouled from behind by Smith, and Smith said, I got all the ball that time.
Well, he did get all ball, but he also got part of Sherman's head. He got the ball with the hands and the head with the elbow. You know, Brendan, you talk about national championships and 1 seedings and so forth, but you know, it hasn't been since 1982 that the number 1 team in the nation also turned out to be the national champion. Carolina was ranked number 1 going into the NCAA tournament and ended up winning it, so it's been a long time. And of the 5 teams in the nation that have won over 80% of their games in the last 5 years, only Georgetown has won a national championship. So, you know, we're a long way from getting there. Who would have ever dreamed Villanova at this stage of the year a few years ago, or NC State, or Kansas from last year? So the 3 weeks become fun.
Douglas dueling away against Smith.
Well, the Big East's going to miss those 2 fellas last year from a standpoint, next year from a standpoint of entertainment value.
Smith has never lost as the point guard to Syracuse. He was not on the floor, remember, last week. The starting point guard.
Right. It's a solid screen by Alonzo. That helps. Down to 10.
And to Tillman for the field goal.
Charles is so great. Double teamed and still sees the open man on the inside. Most guys would be just hopeful that they won't get the ball stolen from them.
Thompson, getting intimidated by Mourning's presence. Syracuse stays with it underneath. And Hareed's first field goal of the game.
You know, Syracuse wearing down a little bit, too. It's been very frustrating mentally, but also physically. Now they're having to chase 4 corners here. See Sherman's eyes looking up at the clock. He realizes this day is over. He knows that Charles is going to have it for that last 10 seconds, too.
Jackson. Nice touch.
Nobody does it better than they do, working that thing down to inside 10 and getting a good shot. Almost like an NBA team in that respect.
They don't make any mental mistakes.
No.
Misfiring. Thompson runs it down.
Now, that's what Stevie Thompson does against most teams. Yeah. Brent, how about substitutions? Charles Smith has not been out in the second half. Alonzo has not been out. Has Jaren Jackson been out?
2-on-1. Here's Mourning, and Manning got over to knock it away. Nice play by the freshman. I think John Thompson's delivered a statement to everybody this afternoon.
Sherman Douglas looked at Charles, said, finally, I get one on you. Two great competitors.
Foul call. Ankle on Sherman Douglas. Down in pain.
He's going to pop up. Wouldn't be. He twisted it right there, one of those quick twists, and he jumps up wisely.
Number 30 for Syracuse.
Well, tonight on CBS, he's been dead for 10 years, but his family says he's coming back. His neighbors say they rather he didn't. Nobody liked him the first time he was here. Tune in tonight on 60 Minutes. Then it's Murder, She Wrote, followed by a CBS special, the 15th Annual People's Choice Awards. Alonzo Mourning leading to an ovation.
Brett, you know what was interesting there? John is constantly a mind game guy. He never even looked at Alonzo when he came over to sit down. Now, you're a freshman. You think, hey, I've had the great half. The coach is going to hug me and all that kind of stuff. And he doesn't even give him the time of day.
21 points, 4 blocks, and 4 rebounds.
Did not give him the time of day. Didn't even make eye contact.
Remember, he kept him on the bench a lot of the first half. Made him watch Dikembe Mutombo play center.
Now, you know, that doesn't happen by accident. The guy constantly is thinking. Because you know, yeah, you had the big day, you played the whole afternoon, the coach is going to hug you, and, you know, nice going, kid, and doesn't even look at you.
Manning. Out of bounds. Syracuse ball. And Bill will get to see some playing time. Douglas is out now, and Thompson fouled. He'll come up to the free throw line as the Georgetown student body, or those students who are here, saying so long goodbye to Syracuse right now. You never know. Way down the road, NCAA.
Well, one thing,
maybe they'll hook up again.
They won't have to face him probably until Seattle if it happens. They sure won't be any kind of regional together. And I think Jim Boeheim makes a heck of a point about the possibility of being a #1 seed himself. They are now 11-3 since February the 1st, and 2 of the losses. I know I already picked him. I'm saying he made. You didn't, but I don't get a vote. I'm not one of the 9. But you know they're 11-3. 2 of those losses to Georgetown. Now John gives Bobby Winston a hug.
He's been around a while.
At least a handshake.
Yeah, hug those upperclassmen. Foul against Thompson.
See how low Bryant got to the floor that time when he dribbled. I mean, Bryant probably 185, 190 pounds, right down to the floor like a running back. No way to steal the ball from him.
Billy, the Dave Gavitt Trophy, which was renamed in honor of the commissioner and the founder of the Big East. Who do we give it to? Any doubt?
Any doubt? Charles Smith?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And he'd get my vote. He's a quality young man.
Wayne Bryant on the line. 1 and 1.
Down toward the 1-minute mark here.
Nice pass.
Smith loose again, lobs it up, and Owens just can't get the handle. It's been a frustrating afternoon for him. Out on top, Scott fouling Smith.
Scott, another one of those freshmen at Syracuse that are going to be major factors in the Big East. He's a great leaper. He's got to put on a little bit of weight. Has terrific range on his outside shot. Just hasn't been able to break into this lineup from playing time. But by next season, you're going to hear a lot of this young man.
Well, we get word that indeed, man at the free throw line, Charles Smith, is the most valuable player of this Big East tournament. So another honor for probably the toughest clutch shooter we've seen in several years, Billy.
Well, he was the MVP of the regular season, player of the year in the conference. As we said, preseason, didn't even make the all-conference team. By the way, that all-conference team preseason was Coleman, Douglas, Robinson, West, and Barrows. Not one Georgetown player selected preseason all-conference. Put that in your pipe and smoke.
This Georgetown team would probably beat the 5 they selected.
I'd give them a shot, I'll tell you that. And John was not the coach of the year. So something's wrong somewhere.
Kareem on the comeback was fouled.
You have to think about that. That's a deep statement. But you have one guy in the preseason all-conference team, and you don't have the coach of the year. Something's happening.
Morning back because Mutombo fouled out.
Oh, and John's on his case.
Look at him.
John's on his case.
Oh, Mutombo very close by, too. John might be able to yell over there a little bit if he wants to.
Oh, he is on his case.
At practice, no one takes it any more than Dikembe Mutombo. One day, Billy, they were running drills down there at school. And Mutombo came away, and he was kind of like limping in pain. And I mean, John called timeout and did his best imitation of Bobby Knight. I mean, he really lathered it. Next play down, Mutombo was right out in front, leading the way.
He says he's no longer an African. He's an African-American, and I'm going to give him grief.
He's also a good basketball player.
Will be.
The MVP drawing the foul from Scott on the outside.
John wanting to use a little more time here.
Followed by Anthony Scott. His second.
Arkansas playing well down the stretch in the Southwest.
They're wearing out the Southwest Conference. But with 20 or more wins, we may have a man return who took a Rhode Island club a nice way last year into the Sweet 16, Tommy Pender.
Coach of the Longhorns this year.
Alonzo comes out again, gets the ignore treatment. I'd like to have a mic wired on John to see how long it is into the night before he says, nice game, kid.
Scott's three is short of everything, but Reed was there underneath. Backcourt foul on Johnson.
Followed by David Johnson.
It's 86-71. The message given by John Thompson that the Hoyas are back and ready to go after still another national championship.
Well, we know how balanced the Big East was this year, but the way they rolled through this three-day tournament, you know, it shows that they can do it to anybody.
John already has been to 10 straight NCAAs. Both those teams will go. Arizona figures to be a top seed. So this will be the 11th in a row for Thompson at Georgetown. He's been to 3 Final Fours in the last 10 years, won 1 championship, played in 3 championship games during the 10 years, 17 years at Georgetown. His record after today will be 396 and 134. So if they win the championship, get to the Final Four, he can win 400 games before the NCAA tournament is over. And foul on Johnson again in the backcourt.
That was my man Scott showing you that range on that jumper. He can really elevate off the floor and has great range.
Next, we've got a preview of the World Figure Skating Championships and the World Speed Skating Championships on the Winterfest.
But I guess the only guy that's got more consecutive trips to the NCAA tournament is Dean Smith. I guess he's working on 16 or 17 now. And when you think back of those Final Fours that John went to, those 3, you know, he could have easily have won all 3 of those as he did lose 2 of them.
What amazes you, Billy, about the Georgetown team is even in this situation, if there's a loose ball, you will see a gray uniform on the floor.
You know, they're talking about those uniforms too, Brent. It's a new uniform for Georgetown, and one of the reasons they like, you'll see a hug here. You'll see a hug here.
to be a senior, you get the hug. The Big Bear will hug you over there.
Scott again with that ranging. Reed fighting for some playing time.
He missed the jam. Syracuse runs it down. That was Johnny Jones who checked in and replaced Smith. Off the glass.
Not called, though. Doesn't count. He didn't call that one. Look at game of horse. You can't count that one.
Georgetown Hoyas win the Big East Tournament Championship and the regular season crown, and now take a dead aim at an NCAA title. Valuable players of this Georgetown championship. Alonzo Mourning on the inside for Georgetown. Stevie Thompson from Syracuse. And a check in the amount of $1,000 will be donated to each school's general scholarship fund to further assist qualified students in their chosen field of endeavor. The MVP of the tournament, Charles Smith. The coach of the tournament, John Thompson, now 6-0 in these championship games. He's with James Brown. James?
All right, Brent, thank you very much. I'm with Coach John Thompson and Charles Smith. First of all, congratulations on being selected as MVP. Maybe you ought to fall down more often at the beginning of the games if it's going to do this.
Well, thanks a lot. Well, I just bruised my elbow. I knew I was going to be all right because this is a very big game for me and our team also.
Charles, did you have any idea your career would be like this?
No comment.
Well, I know somebody who will talk about it.
This is a defensive specialist, James. He can't shoot it all. You're never going to play. I wish I had a recording of what I told him when he came in. But I tell you what, the thing that I love about him, James, he did it. He didn't come in saying, what is the program going to do for him? He came in and tried to help the program and really did that, and I'm proud of it. Never have been any happier about some kid doing well as I have Charles.
Congratulations to the both of you and good luck in the NCAA tournament.
Thank you very much.
All right, let's go back to Brent.
All right, James, thank you very much. The Hoyas of Georgetown have won another one, and they have swept Syracuse 4 times in this game. Coming your way next, and for Billy Packer, I'm Brent Musburger, saying so long from New York. The Hoyas of Georgetown appear again to have it all. They win the Big East Tournament 88-79. This has been a presentation of CBS Sports, home of the NCAA Championship.
Today in the NCAA, Duke's Danny Ferry was bloodied but unbowed. His prayer fell on deaf ears, and North Carolina is the Atlantic Coast Conference champion. In New York, a Georgetown freshman left Syracuse in mourning. John Thompson's Hoyas made it official as the Beast of the East. And Alabama's Keith Askins had Florida asking for trouble with a pair of 4-point plays that helped boost the Crimson Tide's win factor. Today we're going to learn who will ride the road to the Final Four. Hello again, everyone. I'm Jim Nance along with James Brown, and together we're just minutes away right now from finding out the 64-team field for this year's NCAA championship. Billy Packer has made his way up from Madison Square Garden. We'll have his analysis of the seedings and pairings, but first, there are some conference tournaments still going on at the moment, James.
All right, Jim, and these are conference tournament finals that will be completed after the announcement of the 64-team field. Let me bring you up to date in the Pac-10 final. Arizona comfortably ahead of Stanford by the score of 50-32 late in the second half there. Big 8 final, boy, I tell you, Oklahoma has not showed up for this tournament at all, trailing by 16 points to Missouri, that one late in the second half as well. Southwest Conference final shows Texas and Arkansas. Arkansas ahead 72-55. Both of those teams should definitely be in the field of 64. And in the Metro Finals, Louisville and Florida State. Louisville on top, 57-49. 64 teams. Who's going where? The committee in Kansas City has made its final decisions, and Tim Brandt will reveal them to us when the road to the Final Four continues right here on CBS.
The NCAA Tournament Selection Show is sponsored by Pizza Hut, official corporate sponsor of the NCAA.
There's nothing more exciting than a fast break. To Pizza Hut for a great supreme deal, where exceptional leaping ability and blazing speed both come into play in pursuit of Pizza Hut's Supreme Pizza, loaded with 6 mouth-watering toppings. Now get 1 medium for $8.99, or better yet, 2 for just $4 more. And that's a deal worth running out for.
Pizza Hut, making it great.
The Pacific Coast Network.
The site is Kansas City. It's been the focal point of college basketball.
It's the home of the NCAA, as we are now ready to announce the 64-team field for the 1989 tournament. And hello again, everybody. I'm Tim Brandt. For the 5th straight year, the NCAA has 64 teams in this field, so there are no first-round byes. The teams are selected both competitively and geographically, and then balanced as fairly as possible throughout the 4 regions. So we'll start in the East, and we'll tell you that these games are to be played in Providence, Rhode Island, Friday and Sunday, March 17th and 19th. The number 1 seed, as expected, Georgetown. The Hoyas make their 11th straight appearance. That's second only to North Carolina. They'd love to return to Seattle, where they won the title in 1984. The Hoyas play Princeton, Pete Carell's 7th NCAA invitation. The number 8 seed is Vanderbilt, C.M. Newton's last year before he moves on as the athletic director at Kentucky. And Vandy plays Notre Dame, a team without a senior on the roster. The 5th seed, NC State, is in. It's been a tumultuous season for Jim Valvano. Controversy, snowstorms, overtimes. The ACC regular season champions play South Carolina. It's the first bid for the Gamecocks since 1974. The number 4 seed is Iowa, led by B.J. Armstrong, Roy Marble, and Ed Horton, and they'll go against Rutgers. What a job by Bob Wenzel there. Continuing in the East, but moving to Greensboro, North Carolina, these games to be played Thursday and Saturday, March 16th and 18th. Kansas State, the 19th trip to the NCAA tournament, the most among Big 8 schools, and they'll play Minnesota. Stanford gets the number 3 bid. It's the first bid since 1942 for the Cardinal, the only unbeaten team in the history of NCAA tournament play. The Cardinal, 3-0. They won the national championship and have not been back since '42. Siena hasn't played in front of fans in a month. The Measle team, the 14th seed. West Virginia had a 22-game win streak earlier this year. The Mountaineers play Tennessee, and it's Tennessee's first invitation since 1983. Continuing in the East region, the number 2 seed is Duke. These games in Greensboro. Duke is led by Danny Ferry, staying close to home. The Blue Devils play South Carolina State, the number 15 seed. Now in the West region, Boise, Idaho. These games Thursday and Saturday, March 16th and 18th. And the number 1 seed, Arizona, the number 1 team in the nation, led by Sean Elliott. The Wildcats go against Robert Morris. St. Mary's of California make their first appearance since 1959 as the number 8 seed. They'll go against the Clemson Tigers out of the Atlantic Coast Conference. That's the 5th straight postseason tournament for Cliff Ellis. DePaul plays Memphis State. That game Thursday night. You can watch it at 11:30 Eastern Time right here on CBS. Memphis State, DePaul. And the Runnin' Rebels of UNLV, 7 in a row for the Runnin' Rebels in the NCAA tournament, go against Idaho. Idaho is 25-5 from the Big Sky Conference. These games to be played in Tucson, Arizona now, staying in the West. Friday, March 17th and Sunday, March 19th. Oregon State, Coach Ralph Miller's final season, will go against Evansville. Head coach Jim Cruz played on that Indiana team in 1976 that won the title. Seton Hall, congratulations to P.J. Carlissimo back in the tournament, but P.J. has to go back out west for the 2nd year in a row. He'll play Southwestern Missouri State. LSU goes against Texas El Paso. They'll play Friday night, 11:30. You can watch that game also here on CBS, beginning at 11:30 Eastern Time. And staying in the West, the number 2 seed is Indiana. These games in Tucson now. A marquee team in Tucson to replace the Arizona Wildcats, which cannot play on their home court. They'll go against George Mason, the Patriots' first bid ever to the tournament. And you watch out for Kenny Sanders, 2,000 points, 1,000 rebounds for the George Mason Patriots. So we're halfway through the process. 32 teams out of the 64-team field. If your team has not been mentioned yet, then stay with us, because when we come back, we've got the Midwest and the Southeast. We're halfway through the process. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Hyatt Regency Hotel. This is our studio headquarters where the selection process has been taking place this entire weekend. And we've announced now 32 of the 64 teams. So we'll go back to the boards and we'll start in the Midwest region. The Midwest games will be played Thursday and Saturday, March 16th and 18th in Indianapolis, Indiana. The number 1 seed there is Illinois, 19-0 when Kendall Gill is in the lineup. Illinois will play McNeese State. The Cowboys, that's their first bid ever. The number 8 seed is Pittsburgh. The Panthers beat 4 top 10 teams this year, and they'll play Ball State, which is 27-2. That's the best record in the entire NCAA. Arkansas, Nolan Richardson still looking for his first tournament win ever. He's 0-4 in the NCAA tournament, the number 5 seed, and will play Loyola Marymount, the highest scoring team in the nation. Louisville lost 5 of their last 10 games. Unusual for Denny Crum's team. They're usually peaking at this time of the year, tournament time. Louisville will go against Arkansas Little Rock, and this is the second appearance in 4 years for Arkansas Little Rock. Still in the Midwest, moving to Dallas. These games to be played Friday and Sunday, March 17th and 19th. Georgia Tech from the Atlantic Coast Conference, the 6th seed, will play Texas, the Longhorns' first bid since 1979. Missouri head coach Norm Stewart will not be back for the tournament. They're 6-4 under Rich Daly, but they are the number 3 seed and will go against Creighton. The Blue Jays have won 15 of the last 19 games. The Florida Gators won the SEC title for the first time in 55 years. Norm Sloan returns to the NCAA tournament for the 3rd straight year. Colorado playing state from the Western Athletic Conference. Staying in the Midwest in Dallas, again, these games Friday and Saturday. The 2nd seed is Syracuse. This is Jim Boeheim's 12th appearance. The Orangemen, which lost to Georgetown in the Big East title game this afternoon, plays Bucknell. Bucknell is out of the East Coast Conference. Moving to the Southeast region, these games to be played Thursday and Saturday, March 16th and 18th in Nashville, Tennessee. Oklahoma. It's a surprise in that the Sooners did not stay close to home. People had anticipated Oklahoma would play in Dallas. Not the case. Number 1 seed in the Southeast region to be played in Nashville, and will go against East Tennessee State. First bid since 1968. The LaSalle Explorers will play Louisiana Tech, the number 8 and 9 seeds. The University of Virginia Cavaliers, with Terry Holland in and out of the hospital this year, went to the Final Four in 1984, the last time it was held in Seattle. They hope to get there again to Seattle again this year. We'll go against Providence. Congratulations to Rick Barnes, his first appearance into the NCAA tournament. Providence started 13-0 this year. Florida State is in. The Seminoles will go against Middle Tennessee State. Moving to Atlanta, Friday and Sunday, March 17th and 19th at the Omni. The Alabama Crimson Tide will go against South Alabama. A lot of home fans at that game. The University of Michigan playing Xavier of Ohio, the number 14 seed. The UCLA Bruins, many thought on the fence, in as the 7th seed and will go against Iowa State. And the number 2 seed is North Carolina against the winner of the Southwestern Athletic Conference title game. That'll be played tonight between Texas Southern and Southern University. So it's an either-or situation. So looking at the board, some quick thoughts. The defending national champion, Kansas, on probation, unable to defend its title, and it's the first tournament in 10 years that the Kentucky University, has not been in the field. So there you have it, the 64 teams for the 1989 tournament. When we come back, we'll have Cedric Dempsey with us, who is the chairperson of the men's selection committee. He'll join us. We'll answer all the questions that you may have. Right now, let's go back to New York and Jim Nance. Jim? Tim, thank you. Folks, we're also going to go right through the brackets one more time so you have a chance to write them all down. We'll also talk about the pairings with our college basketball expert, Billy Packers. We continue on the road to the Final Four.
The field of 64 is now set, and the man who had the responsibility of overseeing that is in Kansas City, along with Tim Brandt. Cedric Dempsey, head of the selection committee. Let's go back to Kansas City.
All right, James, thank you very much. We are back in Kansas City. We've moved from one spot to the other. We've joined Cedric Dempsey now, who is the chairman of the selection committee, and said, just looking over those boards as quickly as we did and putting them up there, it looked like Indiana moving to Tucson. Was that for marquee value because you did have to move your school, Arizona, out over to Boise?
No, not at all, Tim. The difficult problem there, which is always the case, is when you have multiple teams from a conference, is to make sure that in top seeds that you do not have a 1, 2, 3, or 4 seed team in a particular region, and that you try to maintain some balance in the regions so that you have good equity of competition in all 4 areas.
It looks like the committee was very conscious of that, too, and where they put teams. I see where Georgia Tech is in Dallas, and you have Oklahoma in Nashville, so you did move them around.
Yes, we had to do that because of the multiple numbers from certain conferences. We also tried to keep them as close to their geographic region as we could. And so sometimes they've moved from one area to another, but we've also looked at the venue where they would be playing, and in some cases, even though they're jumping regions, that they may be just as close to their home city.
Let's take a look at some of the teams that didn't make it, teams that were on the wrong side of the fence. Why did Iowa State, for instance, 17-11, go over New Mexico, 20-10?
Well, again, there's a variety of factors that we consider. We look at, we always talk about the strength of schedule. We look at how teams perform late in the year, and that was one of the problems with New Mexico. They did not play as well late in the year as they played earlier in the year. We will look for good wins, good losses. We'll look for bad losses. We try to divide all of those variables down, and we did that with about the last 15 or 20 teams and dissected them what we thought very carefully in making that decision.
Sid, let's take a look at the conference breakdown. And while we're looking at that, did the 4 o'clock games affect the seedings in this tournament? It almost looked as if the tournament championship games went according to Hoyle. The teams that looked like they'd be in were in.
We were fortunate with that because in most of the seeding bracket that we did, we had to put down SEC 1, SEC 2, ACC 1, ACC 2, and that makes it more difficult for the committee to work on the seeding process because you might draw some cases from time to time that we're not properly seeding by institution. But when we have to take in consideration the time factor that we have, it does make it extremely difficult.
Right now we're going to go back to New York. Billy Packer, my colleague, has some questions for you. Billy?
Said in regard to the Illinois-Indiana situation, there's been a lot of talk about, of course, not letting teams have their home court advantage, which you fellows have taken care of. And then there was talk to say, how about in Indiana getting the Hoosier Dome? But obviously they're not going to get that. My question to you is, they won the Big Ten, which does not have a postseason conference tournament. They were the champion of their league, and yet they get seated behind another team in their league, Illinois. What was the thinking there?
Well, the committee's responsibility is to nationally seed them based upon what we would say is their overall performance during the year, Billy. And the committee was very impressed with the late surge of Illinois, in particular since Gill was back in the lineup for them, and they played very well. And on top of that, in head-to-head competition, they beat Indiana both times.
Cedric, you touched on it lightly. What about New Mexico exactly? How did they get left out again this year? It seems like every year the Lobos are the odd team out. For the last 6 years, they have averaged 21 wins a season, yet have never gotten an NCAA bid during that span.
Well, the selection process annually is a relative matter, and so we really have to compare each year team strengths against other teams. So it's difficult to, we recognize the problem that they have been left out, but we do look at them on an annual basis, and I think it would be unfair and certainly not consistent with our charge if we look back and say we left them out last year, and so this year we are going to include them in the tournament. That is really not our charge, and unfortunately they have been a strong contender for the 64 field for the past few years, but have not been in the final selection process.
Said when you get in the situation of various conferences, the ACC leads with 6. The SEC, right along with 2 other conferences with 5 representatives, but not one team is seeded. They've gone throughout the course of this year without anybody consistently in the top 20. Why did you feel there was such depth in the SEC? Does it have anything to do with past performance in the tournament?
Not at all. It has nothing to do with past performance, but we did not feel that there was an SEC team that had performed well enough to be in the top 16, but they had very good balance in their conference this year, and so that is basically why they ended up with a good number in the tournament, but not particularly high seeds.
Cedric, James Brown here in New York. Louisiana Tech got in, and they're from a conference that does not qualify for automatic bid as of yet. What was the compelling argument to get them in this year versus maybe some other team from a conference that does have an automatic qualifier?
Well, in a sense, Louisiana Tech came in as an independent since they're not in a conference that does qualify, and they were entered into the tournament based upon their strength.
Sid, just so I understand it, one more question about the Atlantic Coast Conference. Now, UNC knocked off Duke today. You kept Duke in-state and moved North Carolina to Atlanta. What was the reasoning there?
That was a very difficult issue that the committee dealt with. We felt that if we moved, and at that time we were dealing with the ACC number 1, ACC number 2, Big East number 1, Big East number 2. The Big East number 1 was considered the number 1 seed. If we kept the ACC number 1 in that same region, we felt that it would imbalance the level of competition in the East region. So what we attempted to do, we had selected to move ACC 1, which ended up being North Carolina, out of their region, but kept them as close to their home side as possible in Atlanta.
All right, Sid. Thank you very much for all your help, and good luck in the tournament.
Thank you, Tim.
Let's take it back to New York now, and Jim Nance. Jim? All right, Tim and Cedric, thank you very much. And as promised, we'll come back and go through it region by region, game by game with Billy Packer as we continue on the road to the Final Four.
Leaping ability and blazing speed both come into play in pursuit of Pizza Hut's Supreme Pizza, loaded with 6 mouth-watering toppings. Now get 1 medium for $8.99, or better yet, 2 for just $4 more. And that's a deal worth running out for.
Pizza Hut, making it great.
Earlier today at halftime of our Big East Conference Championship game, we showed you the women's pairings. Now, here was one thing that was undecided at that point, the women's MAC final, Bowling Green with a big victory, and by virtue of this, Bowling Green is in and Arkansas is in the women's tournament. Toledo is out with this loss today. All right, let's go right back to the East now and check it out with Billy Packer. First of all, Thursday and Saturday combination in Greensboro. Let's begin there and take a look at that bracket, Billy. First of all, at Greensboro, the 6th seed is Kansas State against Minnesota out of the Big Ten. Stanford comes all the way from Palo Alto to the East Coast to face Siena. West Virginia and Tennessee, and Duke is the 2 seed going against South Carolina State.
Obviously, I think the most competitive game in that early round could be that West Virginia-Tennessee game. Tennessee is a team that's disappointed throughout the course of this year, but you know they have the talent to come back. West Virginia, I'm sure, very disappointed in what happened in the Atlantic 10, but a very dangerous ball club there. And Kansas State, another team extremely solid in NCAA tournament play, a tough team to beat, and going up against a giant killer, Minnesota.
All right, Billy. Also in the East at Providence, this will be a Friday-Sunday combination, first and second round. The top seed in the East is Georgetown, facing the Ivy League champion Princeton team. Vanderbilt and Notre Dame, North Carolina State, South Carolina, and Iowa against Rutgers.
Well, you know, you often wonder how a team that seemed to be on a very good roll will come back after a very disappointing game, and that's North Carolina State. Their upset against Maryland has to disappoint that club. I'll be anxious to see how they bounce back.
Possible Georgetown-Notre Dame matchup on the first weekend?
Well, I'll tell you what, Petey Carell's club, now there's no way personnel-wise they can match up with Georgetown, but style-wise they will really frustrate the Hoyas, at least early on in that ball game.
And they execute extremely well
indeed.
They
really do.
Let's turn our attention out west, Billy, and first looking out in Boise. Thursday and Saturday combination there. No surprise, Arizona, of course, #1 seed against Robert Morris. Tough matchup there for Robert Morris. St. Mary's of California, first time in 30 years they're in against Clemson. Clemson travels out west. Memphis State, DePaul, excellent matchup there, probably the most competitive, and UNLV in Idaho.
Well, I think you hit it on the head, James, in regard to Memphis State, DePaul. Memphis State, you've got to give Larry Finch a great deal of credit the way he has brought that program back. Extremely solid. It's one of the quickest teams in the United States. I think a real solid dark horse club.
And then the Friday-Sunday matchups in Tucson, Arizona, Oregon State. Ralph Miller, of course, looking to go out on a good note with Evansville. Seton Hall, Southwest Missouri State. #7 UTEP taking on LSU. That'll be our Friday night game. And then Indiana, the 2nd seed out in the West against George Mason from the Colonial Athletic Association.
Two great guards going up against each other in that LSU-UTEP matchup. Seton Hall, as we know, a very dangerous team, but going against a team that's been a shocker in opening rounds in Southwest Missouri State.
All right, we've been going through the brackets East-West because it'll be an East winner against a West winner in the national semifinals in Seattle on April the 1st. That means it'll be Midwest against Southeast in the other national semifinal. Let's check out now the Southeast region. First of all, in Nashville, the top seed, Oklahoma, against East Tennessee State. LaSalle and Louisiana Tech. Virginia against Providence. Florida State against Middle Tennessee State. And, Billy, some could look at this and say Oklahoma looks like a very good shot at going all the way to that regional final if you just look at this bracket.
I think it's a very tough regional there, and Oklahoma's got tired legs. I've been saying that for about the last 10 days or so. They did not play well in their conference tournament. Great matchup between two outstanding individual players, Lionel Simmons and Randy White in that LaSalle game against Louisiana Tech. Virginia, a team that made it to the Final Four the last time it was in Seattle. That'd be a big charge for Terry Holland this time.
Also in the Southeast, let's go to the other region. That site is at Atlanta. You know, we've got a couple of interesting geographical matchups. First of all, we saw North Carolina State, South Carolina out in the East. How about Alabama, South Alabama will square off in the tournament. Michigan, Xavier, UCLA, Iowa State, and North Carolina against the winner of this game tonight, Southern versus Texas Southern. But potentially, we're looking at a North Carolina-UCLA matchup next weekend, Billy.
Well, those two teams in the last few years have played against each other, North Carolina getting the better of it, and then we had that huge upset, what, a year or so ago when UCLA beat them on their home court. I think a Xavier team is kind of interesting. You know, last year we all talked about Xavier being a team that could really make a nice run. They lost their players, but they have some fellas back right now. Could be a very interesting team opening round.
And it could be North Carolina against Michigan in the Sweet 16.
We've seen that before.
Last 2 years, it could be the third year in a row. How about the Midwest, J.J.?
Billy, as we swing our attention to the Midwest, I got to believe this is the toughest region in the country right now. Take a look. Number 1, Illinois. This is the Thursday-Saturday competitions out in Indy. Illinois, McNeese State. Pittsburgh from the Big East will be playing Ball State with the best record in the NCAA at 27-2. Nolan Richardson's Arkansas squad, number 5, against Loyola Marymount. Louisville struggled the last third of the season. Boy, Denny Crum has not had a team struggling this late in the season in a long time, playing Arkansas Little Rock.
Not a bad team in that lineup right there, and I agree with you, James. I think it's by far the toughest region. Arkansas Little Rock, a solid club. Arkansas playing extremely well, dominating their league right now. And, of course, everybody has been talking about how Illinois has come on with a rush at the end. A very strong region in Minneapolis.
And then Friday, Sunday in Dallas, Georgia Tech, the number 6 seed against Texas. Tom Pender's getting the Longhorns in, and his first year as head coach there. Missouri, the 3rd seed, playing Creighton. Florida from the SEC against Colorado State. Syracuse, the number 2 seed out there, playing Bucknell.
You know, when you look at that region, as you said, you take all 4 of those seeds. At one time through the course of the season, you could have envisioned any one of those 4 teams being a number 1 seed. So when you start talking about Illinois, Syracuse, Missouri, Louisville, strong, strong competition.
All right, Billy. James, let me set the lineup now here on CBS. First of all, tonight on CBS, we have 60 Minutes, followed by Murder, She Wrote, and the CBS special, the People's Choice Awards. The tournament gets underway for us on Thursday night with a game between DePaul and Memphis State. That's at 11:30 Eastern Time, and that's a game coming from Boise, Idaho. From Tucson on Friday night at 11:30 Eastern Time, UTEP against the sensational freshman-led Chris Jackson of LSU. That's UTEP and LSU coming your way at 11:30 on Friday night. Then, of course, next weekend, triple header action both Saturday and Sunday beginning at 12 Eastern Time. The Pacific Coast joins us at 11 o'clock Pacific Time. So there are 64 teams with a dream. Their sights set on Seattle as we get set to embark on the road to the Final Four.
The NCAA Tournament Selection Show has been sponsored by Pizza Hut, official corporate sponsor of the NCAA.
When you look for champions, you look to CBS Sports.
This is
National Championship, and then ABC's Wide World of Sports presents special performances from the World Challenge of Champions. You'll see Dorothy Hamill, Brian Boitano, and more from Paris. Now, stay tuned for your local news and World News Sunday over most of these ABC stations. Again, the final score from the Forum is Arizona 73, Stanford 51.
To stimulate, a twisted scientist creates an invincible robot.
We're trying to get them to think. Is this thing yours? It was a limited experiment.
A beast of steel programmed to kill. Will Superboy survive this evil onslaught?
So do we do this the hard way?
Or will he be destroyed? John Matuzak guest stars on the next Superboy.
And Tuesday, March 13th and 14th, the untold story of the war at the Justice Department and the White House.
Nixon will be elected.
Well, I was counting on you and he becoming friends.
Jack Warden, Nicholas Campbell, and Leland Gant star in Hoover versus the Kennedys, the Second Civil War.
Watch those boys nail themselves.
More than a struggle for power, it became a struggle for survival. Hoover versus the Kennedys, Monday and Tuesday, March 13th and 14th at 8 on WUTV.
If you were age 65 or older on the last day of the tax year or are blind, you can take an additional standard deduction. Depending on your filing status, the dollar value of each allowable deduction is either $600 or $750. Add this additional amount to your regular standard deduction to obtain the total standard deduction you can claim. Get the facts about taxes now.
Wednesday, March 15th, WUTV, the great entertainer, invites you to a free preview of Universal Pictures' Fletch Lives.
You don't know that tic-tac, do you?
America's favorite multiple personality is back. Simply stop by WUTV during working hours and pick up your free pass to Fletch Lives at University Cinema Wednesday, March 15th at 7:30. Chevy Chase returns as I Am Fletcher in Universal Pictures' Fletch Lives. Hurry, free preview tickets limited.
Buffalo 29, WUTV.